Hi, welcome back. I'm Nikki at Art to Silkscreen and you're watching step 5 of the screen printing process, printing your image. Today I'm going to demonstrate how to print a simple one-colour design using plastisol ink onto both a white t-shirt and also a black t-shirt. Before we start, you need to make sure that your screen is held and positioned tight and accurately registered inside your clamp head. So whether or not you're using a carousel or a screen printing hinge clamp, either way, you've just got to make sure that there's no movement when the screen comes down into position. So we've already aligned our one colour artwork, our registration marks. As you can see on our screen, you can see through the registration marks onto the centre line that we've already drawn on our printing board, and we've already marked our printing neckline as well on the board. Lastly, before you even think about putting ink or a squeegee on the screen, you've also got to make sure that you set your off contact. This is also known as your snap off as well. So this is where your screen needs to sit completely horizontal with your printing board. The good thing about this particular carousel is we've got a tilt on the head, so it can actually adjust the angle that the screen is sitting level with the printing board. The off contact itself is usually set to about 1 to 2 mil. Sometimes on thicker garments you would go higher than that, so maybe 3 mil. So that just increases that snap off between, you'll see there's a little bounce there, and that just makes sure when you're actually printing with your ink, it would show you whether or not the image has actually cleared in all areas if there's a little snap off. If the screen and the image was sitting completely flat against the garment, you wouldn't necessarily see whether or not you'd cleared it properly. So just make sure your off contact is set. So now we're ready to print. We'll print first onto a white t-shirt. So place your squeegee onto your screen. Make sure your squeegee is big enough to cover comfortably your image area. If you get too close to the sides of the image with your squeegee, you could see quite sort of a not very good quality print along the edge. It might blob, or you just might not get the definition and the sharpness that you need. So first we'll place our t-shirt on the printing board. So get yourself some textile adhesive spray. Make sure it is a textile spray and not one that's designed mainly for paper use. This is because you want it to dissolve on the underside of the garment when you actually when you pull your garment off. You don't want a glue residue inside the shirt. So holding it about a foot away from the printing board, just spray a light mist over your printing board. You don't want too much. And then take your t-shirt, and this is how I would normally align the t-shirt on the printing board. Some people find this really tricky and it ends up sort of going at an angle, but I tend to grab both sides of the shirt, find your neckline, and then just allow the t-shirt to fall naturally along the board. And then I grab from underneath the arms, and as you can see I just realigned it there, because holding both seams underneath the arms can give you a really good indication as to whether or not you're over here or if you're in the centre. So just allow it to fall where it should underneath the arms there, and then do the same again at the bottom of the shirt here. So taking both edges and then allowing it to fall comfortably, and then flatten it out, just to make sure that there's no creases at all, because creases will again affect the quality of the print. So make sure that your t-shirt is 100% flat on your board. Okay, so now what we'll do is we'll place some of our plastisol ink. So we're going to use plastisol ink today. This is a non-air dry ink. It's great for those that are starting out because it gives you longer printing time on your screen. The ink isn't going to start drying as soon as you put it on your image. So I haven't actually thinned any of this ink out today. You can thin a plastisol ink out using some flow thinners, but we haven't done that today because we are going to be printing onto a black shirt, so we want to keep the ink quite dense. So place some of your ink. So I've put the actual plastisol ink on the bottom side of the screen, not the top. You can put it on the top if you're going to, depending on the direction of the print that you're going to be choosing. So make sure there's plenty of ink on the screen. If you don't put enough, you're never going to be able to flood your image and make sure that there's enough ink covering your whole image. So the reason I've put the ink this side of the screen is because I'm going to be flooding this way, first of all. So we're going to pop our squeegee down there because we're just going to cover up our registration marks as well. You must make sure you do this. You won't believe the amount of people that do actually forget to cover up their registration marks. So just put a little bit of tape on the underside of the screen, not the print side because the squeegee may end up ripping it off. So on the underside of the screen, just make sure you cover up your registration marks, otherwise they will also be printed onto your t-shirt. So now we're going to flood the screen. So taking all of the ink that we've put on the screen, we're going to hold the actual, or balance the screen above the shirt itself. Make sure you don't flood the screen whilst it's down on the shirt. And then we're going to pull our squeegee and our ink across, okay? What you don't want to do is press too heavy when you're flooding, so as to end up flooding the ink wells underneath the screen and ending up with a really big amount of ink. But you don't want to press too light because you won't end up covering the whole image. If you haven't got enough ink on your screen, you'll know that when you flood because you just won't have enough to cover the image area. So it is a really good idea to flood the screen first. Okay, so now what we're going to do is lower the screen onto the t-shirt, and more so when you're using a larger squeegee from about 12 inches upwards. We're using a 15-inch today. You need to use both hands, position both hands on the squeegee evenly so that the pressure is even, both right and left. Your thumbs are towards you, and it's going to be a lot of the pressure is going to come from your thumbs and also down through the squeegee. If you imagine a line going down through the squeegee, you need to hold your squeegee at a 45-degree angle. So not up there. You need that edge of the squeegee to be the bit that's going to be pushing that ink through, okay? So holding your squeegee with both hands, 45-degree angle, pressing firmly, we're going to be pushing the squeegee up towards the other side of the screen, and you need to make sure that you keep an even pressure from the start of the print right the way through to past the finish of the print, because if you start weakening the pressure halfway through or slowing down or speeding up, the image quality won't be consistent. So we're just going to print that now. Okay, you can see I lifted the squeegee just to put it the other side of the ink at the end. That just sets you up for your next flooding of the screen. Okay, as you can see, when you look closely, you can see some ink still in the image area here. So this is why it's a really good idea to actually have really good accurate registration so that the screen won't move, because if you do need to go over it again, and it could just be because the pressure wasn't enough. Okay, it could be where it's the first pull of the squeegee, number of different reasons, you can go back over it again. So we're just going back over it again, exactly the same way, and as you can see, the complete image area has cleared, so you know that your print will be completely even. So bringing the screen up, can see we've got a really crisp, sharp quality print there. There's no gaps in it. There's no bits that haven't printed. There's been enough ink on the screen. So that's what you've got to make sure of. So this is the print when we've actually printed onto a white shirt. Now I'm going to show you how to print onto a black shirt with the same ink. So we'll remove this. Put a little bit more spray on. You probably only need to spray your printing board every maybe 5 shirts or so. You don't really have to spray it every time. Okay, so just repeating what we did. We are going to flood our screen. As you can see, I just lifted the squeegee just up over the ink again. Place it down, and then 45-degree angle. We're going to print our image. I'm going to do one more pull or push of the squeegee. Doesn't matter if you pull the squeegee from this way towards you or you push away from you. I prefer to push away from me because it uses my upper body strength, so you get more strength into it. So if you're a little bit more light-handed, as I am, then you can put more strength into it by pushing. So with practice though, a lot of practice, you can generally, once, say I was printing 100 shirts or so, you'll probably get into a motion of where you could probably get away with one swipe of the squeegee. So as you can see, onto a dark shirt here, the actual garment, the black fibres in the garment are showing slightly through the print, so it's not given an amazing coverage. Often when you're using things like neon, fluorescent, really bright coloured inks, there's a technique that we call PFP, which is print, flash dry, then overprint. So you would print your image like this, and then using your flash dryer, you would bring it over it. So you would touch dry your print using a flash dryer, not fully cure it, you just need to touch dry it. Plastisol inks do touch dry at about 100 degrees. So with using this flash dry, it takes about 4 seconds or so. So you can always test with your fingers just to see. I mean, it's still a little bit tacky. It's not too much of a problem, but we can go back down over it because we're using a printing press with good registration. So we're going to grab some of the ink and put it the other side. And we just go straight back over it again. So as you can see, we're fielding a lot of those areas. You get a nice bright print on the black shirt. Now we can dry it once more. Quite often this would be good enough as a good enough coverage for a light blue onto dark, but what we'll do is we'll dry it that little bit more this time, just to make sure that it's almost fully set. And then we'll go back over it once more, and you can see the finish and the difference between printing onto black with just one print and then also with 2 or 3. So as you can see, this is touch dry. So we'll go back over it one more time. There you go. So the definition's still there, the quality is still there, but you're building up those layers, so you're reducing the amount of black that you see through the ink itself. And there you go. That's how you print a one colour design onto a white t-shirt and also a black t-shirt. So thank you for watching. See you next time. Don't forget to subscribe.